Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Feurer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast designed to help you think better thoughts so you can get the results you deserve. I am your host, Shawn Feurer, here today with my other host,
Kaitlin Feurer.
I don't like the word co-host.
Well, the way you
this
say
is your
it.
co-host. I know. I'm a host. You're a host. We're both hosts of the Inner Blueprint Podcast. And
I like it.
Are you excited? We're always excited for our guests. In case you guys listen a lot and you hear us say that every time,
Yeah.
it's because we are truly excited.
We love our people.
We are blessed with the best people in the home improvement industry and even outside of it when we bring in somebody outside. But today's guest is from the home improvement industry. Mm-hmm. He grew up surrounded by the family business, learning early what it takes to build something that lasts. Over the years, he's helped transform a small, respected local remodeler into a thriving, system-driven organization known for excellence in service, culture, and customer experience. From sales to marketing and to operations, he's led with a mindset focused on growth, leadership, and the power of people. Outside of work, he's passionate about family, learning, and creating impact. I don't know if we'll talk about it today, but I know he's also passionate about music.
Yep.
Please welcome to the show our friend, a client of ours, the president of Alco Products, Jesse Kreisman. What's up?
Hey guys, good to be here. Thank you for the intro. Way better than I could have written.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that intro does you justice.
I agree.
As listeners are going to find out today, Jesse Kreisman is a very dynamic human being. That's
multifaceted.
Very driven. Yes.
He's a doer.
And yes, you are a doer. It's funny.
He's a shark, literally, a tiger shark.
Yes.
Sure, you wore my hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have wore your hat. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's an excellent Monday here in the DC area.
Good.
Always look forward to getting the week started.
Yeah. So let's dive in. You and I have been talking about doing an episode for a little while, and one of my favorites of all the people I deal with, Jesse, you go deep on mindset, probably deeper than most people, right?
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
Before you met me, tell us a little bit about what mindset meant to you. And then I guess we will talk about a little bit today. You're very process-based, and you've had some really good training. You've worked some really good organizations in the industry. And I do want to dive into what the difference is between having best practices and maybe not having the best mindset.
Yeah, like how mindset combines with skill set.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say before I met you, because I met you in a previous life.
Yes.
Before you were doing mindset work.
Yeah.
But when we reconnected, at that point, I really wasn't doing a whole lot of mindset work. I think that around the time I met you is when I started doing a deep dive into it. And it couldn't have come at a better time really, because we were, I guess it was the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, right when COVID and the pandemic and all the shutdowns hit, which I think for anyone in the business or in any business, small business, was probably a little frightening at first. Definitely, Howie and I had just signed a lease on, our new showroom and office that had doubled the size of it. And so here we are, getting ready to open this brand new showroom. And like 15 days later, the governor's can't do that.
Yeah.
So mindset, I definitely, before I met you or before we reconnected, really hadn't spent a lot of time dealing with it, but spent a lot of time more on kind of what you mentioned, the other side of the business, the process and systems and, in that world. So. Okay.
And again, it's funny you bring that up too, because, I was just really kicking off my first groups in February 2020. And yeah, now we're shutting down. You guys can't go into homes, all my speaking events. And, for my first group, we call it the COVID group. A lot of them are still in the mindset program. For our industry, it ended up being a good opportunity because everybody was home. But it took getting out of scarcity. It took not worrying about all the negative things coming to us from the outside world.
Especially for you, Jesse, because your business is based in the DC area. Like, it is a metropolis. Like, you're not in, Kansas, where it wasn't as, or Florida, where it was like not as, intense in the suburbs or, in the rural areas. Like, you were in the hot zones of, like, you can't do anything.
We were printing, because we go, DC, Maryland, Virginia, so we service all the, 2 states in the city. And Howie and I were printing out, all the regulations and highlighting where it showed we were essential workers and giving all the guys. So, there was early on, we didn't think we'd be able to, I live in DC, our office is in Maryland. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to drive, between the state when we first got started. So it was definitely a little intimidating. But as we, as kind of, as we got into it and as we learned, it ended up being in some ways, pretty good for the home improvement space.
Yeah. Well, and in mindset, we talk all the time of when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And for a lot of us, it was shifting the mindset. Okay, we have to operate a little bit differently now. People are home. Demand is actually going up because people are spending. And
everyone's stuck at home and they're like, man, I hate my kitchen.
Yeah. Well, a lot of time looking outside your windows.
Yeah, oh, these windows are terrible.
These windows
Did you know
suck.
there's a leak?
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting, and we don't want to get political at all, but right now you are in the DC area and we've got the government shutdown, which by the time this drops, I hope everything is open, but that affects you as well, right? With all the essential workers.
It's not even, we deal with a lot of clients, the majority of our clients are not federal workers, but we do deal with federal workers that own homes in the region, but then we also service, the small business owner that, owns the bar downtown that does a big happy hour business, or owns the lawn care business that services the area. So it's not just the federal workers, but it's the contractors and all the infrastructure set up for federal contracting, and then it's also other small business owners and other just people in the region that have aren't directly again federal employees, but maybe service those industry or service that the government, and so it definitely gets quiet. And it's not the best. This is when we typically start to slow down the industry. And so it's very easy to get, it can be, if not for all the training, very easy to get in a negative headspace when you have a government shutdown. It doesn't happen often, thankfully, but when it does, it usually does have an impact on our business.
So how do you use your mindset? Like back then through COVID, you used mindset as you learned more about it to stay positive. Now, I know right now you're already thinking of next year. You're already thinking growth. You're already thinking positive. How does mindset apply into that? And what do you do on the daily to stay there?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the first thing that I think we all have to remind ourselves during any time period where business is difficult is that, if you look out in history, there's countless examples of businesses thriving, whether being founded or thriving in uncertain times. Even if you want to go back, there's a list out somewhere of all the companies I think that was founded during the Great Depression. And obviously that was a very traumatic time in the country's history, but there's always examples of businesses that succeed or that are started and that weather the storm during tough times. So the first thing is be positive. I think it's really easy to get stuck, especially in today's day and age with social media and the news. It's really easy to get in a negative headspace, and you got to kind of put all that aside. I when it comes to what I do daily, I'm very, very, religious about my morning. I wake up early. I do my worthy goal. I go through some affirmations, maybe journal a little bit, and then I go to the gym. I know everyone, or a lot of people on the internet like to make fun of people for their morning routines, but it really does ground me. I get, a couple hours before the day really gets going, to work on myself, whether that's journaling, meditating, or getting to the gym. And that really sets me up for success. I can cross something off the list before I even leave the house,
Oh, I love it. And as you know, that's one of the recommended things we have in Inner Blueprint. Our mindset program is 30 minutes a day, but taking it even farther. Hal Elrod is the creator of the Morning Miracle, which is, and he talks about that the morning starts the rudder of your day. It literally sets the energy and the mindset. And I love, and you're probably one of the most dedicated, especially on the fitness side, right? Of understanding that when you work out, you're working through stress hormones and putting your mind in a better state, right?
Yeah. It's, again, the gym for me is a sanctuary. It clears my head. But I also, just like in the business, you can you can track and measure and see the progress. And so I've always enjoyed, whether it's weightlifting, I'm trying to run now, doing whatever back in the day when it was sports. I mean, the training and growing aspect I really enjoy, and I think that is kind of the same reason why I've enjoyed growing the business so much. Again, I like to put in the effort to put in the work and then track it and see the results and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, we say in the gym, you put more weight on because you want to grow and get stronger, right? So you put more weight and you lift it. And I know in your business, you've made some changes that have been challenging, right? With sales process, with pricing, and just that understanding. And for listeners, it's a takeaway. At the gym, you put on heavy because you want to get stronger. And in business, whether it's outside things like Jesse's dealing with right now, or just the process of trying to grow the company, maintain or increase profitability, there is going to be some heavy lifting. And the daily work is to lift it with a positive mindset.
Yeah. And Jesse, did you just grow up with a positive mindset? Did you just was the word mindset ever used prior to I don't know, meeting, Shawn? But, was it, 'cause some people are raised in it and some people have no idea what it is before, but if people know you now, they're like, that guy has such great mindset. And we can speak on your disc profile. You're a DC. You're not hardwired to be that way, honestly. Yeah. You're hardwired for, I want it perfect. I want it now. No excuses. Get it done. Things like that. So,
well, that was his mindset when I met him.
Yeah.
And, I'll speak for you a little bit. You can add on to this, but Jesse was one of the most competitive individuals I've ever met.
Still is.
He was so perfectionist on the outside that he was also a perfectionist with himself, and he would pull out that beat up stick all the time, right? But that is what drove you to get to the point when we met, is you were going to grow this business. I mean, hopefully you're okay, but I remember you talking about it used to piss you off when you'd see competitors' advertisements because you're like, F that company. I'm going to be bigger. Yeah, it still does, right? Because that's, that was your mindset.
I don't know if that'll ever go back.
No, and I love that about you, that competitive spirit of always wanting and striving for more, but that also can be detrimental to your mindset too when you're too focused on that, right?
No, it can. And it's a, I haven't really thought about this too much, but this is hitting me. I mean, I wasn't, growing up mindset wasn't like, again, I wasn't something I was necessarily really exposed to. Although, if I really think back on it, I mean, I'm incredibly blessed. My parents were the most loving, supportive parents you could have, and whatever I wanted to do in life, or whatever maybe not everything. I mean, I'm sure if I might have put their foot down, but whatever my goals and dreams were, they wanted to support. So I was very lucky with that. And then also, I mean, my grandmother always would tell me that, or told my mom, and then got passed down to me, is 99% of the things you worry about never come true. Oh. So, that I guess was my early intro to mindset. And then, I'd started during the journey of taking over the business. We, started reading some books, but definitely hadn't taken the deep dive, really until we reconnected with you guys.
And I guess we kind of skipped over that, but how did you get involved in the business? Was it always the plan? I mean, you grew up around the business, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't always the plan. So I'm a third generation contractor. My grandfather started the business that my brother and I run today. My dad took over after him, and then Howie and I got involved and have been working on growing and scaling it ever since. I had a lot of interest in my childhood. I think at one point I wanted to be an astronaut. But I actually eventually, as I was getting into middle and high school, I wanted to be a chef. I actually apprenticed in a couple of restaurants in high school in the summers. Ended up going to college, thinking that let's get a degree first in case the whole chef thing doesn't work out. And during that time, I was getting, my dad was ran the business more as a one-man operation. I mean, he had a great referral base, and he didn't have to do a lot of marketing, and he had a couple crews in the field, but he really sold and managed his own projects. And when I was in school, internet or social media marketing and the internet was starting to get really important. And my mom at that point, because both my brother and I were out of the house, my mom has a background in PR, and so she was starting to help my dad with the website and trying to figure that out. So then I I helped them in the summers. And when I was at school, a couple hours a week here and there, whether managing the website, writing blogs, helping with the pay-per-click advertisements. And then by somewhere in my 4 years of college, said, you know what, this is what I want to do. And so that's how I got involved. But yeah, I mean, I was always around the business. I was very fortunate. My my dad, worked out of the house for a while. And so in the mornings, he'd be, writing estimates, or, at night I'd see him make calls, and, it was very easy for me to go downstairs and, and be around it, and see what he was doing. So I was always very exposed to it.
Yeah, it's funny, Jesse, because we have, I feel like sometimes I'm your guide, being quite a bit older than you, but we go through similar experiences and talk about them and work through them. But same for me. I grew up around the family business, went to college, got a degree. The plan was never to stay in the business, was to do something else. And I think for listeners, we do have, and a lot of your friends in our group, there's a lot of family businesses in home improvement. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, as a father, our fathers don't say, hey, we want to lead our kids into this business. It's nice when they do, but somehow a lot of us end up, growing up around the industry, going to school, or not going to school, but planning on doing something different. And then somehow we end up in this interesting dynamic, which I think we should talk about, because, I worked with my dad, with my brother, with my two sisters for a little while. I ended up outlasting them in the business and becoming partners with my father. But it's challenging. You want to talk about, we can talk about the blessings of being in a family business, and then some of the challenges. Because I know your mom and dad are still involved. You're operating president of the company. You've got a brother that's involved in the business. Maybe let's just talk about, for listeners, you're not alone if you deal with this dynamic, because there are a lot of us in the industry that do.
Yeah. And you guys do it really well. So I'd love to hear how that works. Because it's like, you were almost just brought in the business through like osmosis, right? That's what happens.
If I ever get around to publishing my unfinished book, it's got a lot of family business stories in there. But it's it can be a blessing, or it is a blessing in a lot of regards, but it's not always easy. My parents are still involved. My dad's semi-retired. I don't know if he'll ever really retire. So, I'm extremely fortunate I get to see my parents and my brother. I see my brother every day. I see my parents a couple of days a week, which is really awesome. And I'm very lucky for that. I'm very grateful for that. But when it comes to family business, I think that it can be really easy to be, I don't know if mean's the right word, but it can be really easy to be really mean to the people you care about, especially in the business world. And when things are going well, my brother and I are in a much better place now. When things aren't going well, it's very easy to argue, and the gloves tend to come off a lot quicker. Or when you're talking to a team member, they don't come off at all, obviously, because you keep that, for whatever reason, you kind of keep that level of professionalism. So, I think that was something that really Howie and I had to work through, and learn how, look, there's always a little, you always have that brother dynamic, but we had to learn how each other works, and we're fairly opposite in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn how to work with each other. Luckily, his interests were always more in the production operations of the business, and I was always more interested in sales and marketing. So that kind of naturally keeps us in different buckets. But yeah, it's great because you get to be around your family, but like I said, you got to be careful with how you deal with your family, because at the end of the day, they are your family, and the business is one thing, but family is everything. And, it's important to remember that, like I said, it's even though they're your family, you don't go for the low blow during the argument. And, it takes a lot of work, but luckily with good communication, we found, we're in a pretty good spot. So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting. We just did an episode with Kyle and Becca Erdman, who, we were talking about, and Kyle grew up in the family business with his dad. And now we've got a power couple that work together and they balance each other. And I love, because you and Howie.
Oh, they actually have the same profiles.
Yeah.
That's Kyle and Becca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Howie has Becca's and you have more Kyle's, but you guys have found a way, because when those don't work, they clash. And when you have awareness and respect for the relationship and work together, you can create a lot of balance. It's funny, just as we're talking, I am pretty sure I met Howie and your mom at a contractor event before I met you, because didn't Howie come into the business before you did? Yeah.
Back in the early days.
Yes. Before you knew this is what you were doing fully, I think, right? Yeah. Well, let's give a shout out to your parents too, because they've done an amazing job of stepping back and letting you and Howie come in and run it. And your dad is still, he sells, right? Is he, that's
Yeah,
basically all he does.
he, number one, he's a very social person, so he likes being in the office and he likes seeing the company grow. He likes being around the new team, and but his cell phone will ring. I mean, he'll get a handful of referrals or past customers a week,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that's he doesn't take company leads, but again, he'll have people that he sold 20, 30 years ago. It was always, as a kid, I would always laugh. He'd pick me up from school. We'd go to the grocery store, Friday afternoons. And it was always like a game, like who was he going to run into that he knew? And I mean, people would just see him, and he sometimes wouldn't remember them. Like, oh, Zach, you did my windows 5 years ago. And he's a very social person. People really like him, and he's a really nice person. And so his phone will just ring, like I said, 4, 5, 6 times in a week. He'll get referrals, past customers. And he'll run those leads, and that's a pretty high close rate on him. So yeah, that's he still works a couple of days in the summertime. It's a little less when it's golf season. In the wintertime, he's in here a little more when he's got nothing else to do. But I don't think he'll retire.
No, well, as for you, as you were trying to grow the company, you wanted him to have that freedom. And you're like, my dad can't be my top sales rep, but he kept being the top sales rep even as he was stepping back, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's also, I mean, you want to talk about the mindset side, and something that I really struggled with is, my goal with all of this with the business was, I didn't want my parents to have to work anymore. And that really shifted because, my goal for them, was that because I wanted to take care of them. And then their goal was they wanted to be around to help me with the business because they wanted to take care of me. And my goal has shifted because it's, I mean, again, talking about the family business too, like trying to work together. I was always trying to step in and take over because I didn't want my dad to have to, or my mom to have to do something. And then my dad or mom would always feel bad if I was working late because they were like, why do you have to be here till 8:00?
Yeah.
And what I kind of shifted to is it's not that I don't want them to have to work anymore, but I want them to, my goal with all this is I want them to be able to work as little or as much as they want. I've realized my dad needs to come in here. Like I said, he won't retire. He needs to be in the office a couple of days a week. He needs to be dealing with his clients. He likes that. It gives him purpose. And my mom likes coming in too. And the same thing, she needs to be in here a couple of days a week. It gives her purpose. And so my goal has really, and that's through mindset is being able to recognize that, because it is, you have to be willing to adapt. And that's where the mindset work really comes into it, is being able to adapt and say, instead of fighting against it, hey, I don't want them to work, I don't want them to come in, being able to shift that mindset of, okay, they want to do this. And so now my goal, I can fulfill my own goal by just shifting a little bit of, hey, it's realizing that they still want to work, and just making it that I want them to be able to work as much or as little as they want. If they want to retire tomorrow, then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
But if they want to come in every day and for the next 10 years, we'll also be fine.
Yeah.
As long as they're happy. So yeah.
Well, I love that. And that was a huge shift because, your personality style and your competitiveness was, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to run things, to take over things. And it can be frustrating when other people aren't coming along with your plan. And you did have the awareness to step back and say, well, wait a second, I know this is what I want, but if that's not what everybody wants. And that is the balance of the dynamic in the family business, honestly. And I think you've done an amazing job. And show what's possible for listeners. If you're listening and you have a family business and you're struggling, just, listen to Jesse keep talking here of how they balanced it. And, for us at SFC, besides this Inner Blueprint podcast, we do disc profiles, which are great. I mean, we've done so many brothers, couples, family businesses. And if there's conflict right now in your business, it might be you're not utilizing each person's unique skill set to the best of their ability. And with a little bit of shifting, we can create not balance, right, but maybe some harmony with the different personality styles to help a team, and especially a family team, work together. Because
it all comes down to communication, like Jesse said. Like, you've just got to learn to communicate, and everyone we know that works together is comes down to communication, especially with family, and especially because it's rare too. Usually, one person will take over the family business, or one of the siblings, but it's like you and Howie are doing it together. And you both stay in your own lanes and are running your own things, which is awesome. But that's rare, and without a really great understanding of how each other works and how to communicate. They were to just,
Well, and not creating a hostile takeover of mom and dad's company too. Create an environment where they can get what they want out of it. And, in mindset, I don't know if we'll dive deep on this episode. Jesse, you and I have talked a lot about as human beings, we need purpose, and that's why we do anything. And for your parents, this is their family business, and they created it so you as brothers can step into it. But allowing them to keep their purpose as you create your own is, I think, a beautiful thing. And you and Howie both are commended by us for creating such a cool atmosphere in your family business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
It's
thank
definitely
you.
not the
Yeah,
norm.
it's funny you talk about purpose. I've made this joke with people, and I really think it's true. Is the leading cause of death in America is retirement, and so many people, they live their whole life to work, and then once they stop working, it's like now what? Most people don't find that purpose, and lose the routine, lose their edge, and so I'm you know, I hope my parents are around for a very long time to see the business grow. And like I said, as long as they want to be here and as long as they want to work, I'm happy to give them that place to do it.
Oh, I love that. And you and I have talked a lot about this. Retirement at 65 is a joke if you don't have something to replace it. And, besides my dad as a mentor, I had his partner Ted Norton, who I remember he retired in 1998, and we sat down, and this was before I had the mindset work, but he gave me good mindset on this because I said, "Well, Ted, you've worked your whole life. You get to retire. What are you going to do?" And he said, "I'll tell you damn well what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to go sit home on that couch and die." And he is one of the only people I know that did a good job finding a new purpose. He started flipping properties, him and his wife. And yeah, it is important. And I think for listeners too, besides the family dynamic, what is your set point? Me and Jesse both talked about raising the set point of retirement age, keeping purpose. And, I'm a happy, healthy 100 years old. I say it every day. It's one of the reasons I do a lot of the fitness routines. And Jesse's helped me with that because he's got it dialed in on the fitness side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you look at a lot of the long-lived cultures out there. They talk about the blue zones and things, and most of them attribute it really even more than health and wellness. They attribute it to purpose.
Yep.
And a lot of them do work, and never retire. Do some kind of work, until their last day. So very important.
Yeah, we're breaking that paradigm. One thing I do want to hit on too is you have done a really good job of creating a strong family culture to your business. How does that ripple down into the employees that you're able to attract and then the customer experience that you provide, because you do put people first?
Yeah, well, I don't think I know we have a great team here. And I would like to think that it's because everybody here feels like part of our family. And we really want that. So, winning is important. I'll be the first one to tell you that, but we want to have a great team. We want to have people here that have fun and enjoy what they do. Again, you talk about work, you spend, a lot of your day at work, and you're around your in some cases you might be around your colleagues equally or more than your family, some days. So it's important to have, a place that is, I think has a good family atmosphere. You want somewhere where people come in and want to have fun. Celebrate the birthdays, celebrate the work anniversaries, order in breakfast or lunch every once in a while. It's today's day and age. It's not, I feel like it's sad, but the bar is not that high for creating a good work atmosphere. And then when it comes to our customers, again, I'm a huge believer in this, but in if I look at our market, there's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of contractors of some sort in the DC, Maryland, Virginia region. And all these homeowners have the opportunity to hire anyone. And they're choosing to hire us if they work with us to work on their arguably or generally the most prized possession, which is their house.
Yep.
And that's a sacred space. And it's a place where in many cases you raise your family, you spend time with your loved ones. And they're choosing to have us work on their house and spend their hard-earned money. And so it's something I don't take lightly. They have choices to go with anyone else. And so I feel that we have an obligation to go above and beyond for them. And we always use a tagline, and it's a little catchy, but we treat, your home the way we want ours treated. And ultimately that comes down to respect. And so we want, I want to grow my business, but I don't want to grow the business at the sake of quality. And I don't think that, I know it's possible. I know you can grow a business and scale a very large business while keeping a great culture and having customer satisfaction be at the forefront. I don't think that this business, I don't think you can run this business purely off of a spreadsheet. I think you've seen that in recent, news with some interesting news out there. But there's a big people aspect to it. And again, ultimately we're working on people's homes. We're working in a sacred space to them, in one of their most prized possessions, and are generally speaking their biggest financial purchase. And the money that they're spending with us a lot of times is also, we talk about a material purchase. I mean, it's other than a car. I mean, that generally speaking, what's the most expensive thing you're going to buy outside of your house? It's your siding, your windows, your roof. So
Yeah.
we want people to, everyone that works here, we want them to have that that sense of respect for our customers as well. So
Yeah. No,
I mean, yeah. I mean, the services you provide are one thing, but it's the people that provide them. That's what people remember. I mean, the average homeowner doesn't care how great James Hardy siding is, right? Like they like to look at it. It's the experience they get when they're sold it, when it's installed, everything that goes into it. I mean, we're on the opposite side of that right now, and it's amazing. I'm like, oh, I want this, but it's the people that I bought.
yes,
The product,
the communication, the processes.
Yeah.
Well, I do love Jesse too, because you talked about kind of, I call it the spirit of the business, right? And that's the energy you put into the family culture. Is we are taking care of families' homes, and it's a
Yes.
sacred space. They bring babies home, celebrate birthdays, holidays coming up, and if you put that mindset into the culture, and I do love that you said this, because you're breaking maybe a paradigm. It can be a winning family. Like, you're competitive. You want that drive. And I know I've got feedback. I do work with some of your team they've worked for bigger corporate cultures that don't have that family. And that's why they're there with you. They like the fact that you do care. And just because you care doesn't mean there's not accountability. There's not maybe going to be turnover, but it's creating a winning family starting at the top. And you guys have proved that. So I just like to point on that. And hopefully we're inspiring somebody listening who is trying to create that and doesn't have it. It is possible. And Jesse and Howie and their parents are proof of this, and the company they're building and continuing to grow, and the team that they have currently. It's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Do you think it's helpful in what you're creating that Howie is involved in the same program that you're, like in our program, and that you have, Brian, and you have people to help reinforce that? Do you think that is helpful? Or
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's without a doubt, mindset, you can, I'm trying to think of a phrase, you can, on your own, you can be surrounded by negativity. And if you have a solid mindset, you can work through that. But when you have a team that's all on the same page with, not just the goals they have, but the mindset and the belief in themselves and the belief in what's possible, I mean, that's a winning formula. Especially when you have, your leaders involved and some of your team involved. There's so much, there's so much negativity in the world, and most of us have, or whether are born with it or develop them, self-limiting beliefs and paradigms about what's possible. So yeah, when you have the whole team involved, I mean, that's a winning formula right there.
Yeah. I love it. Well, when we talk about mindset, and prior to working with us, you had a winning mindset, that's for damn sure. But now, as you're diving deeper, anything you want to share on helping somebody maybe get out of the how, think bigger thoughts? You've had I think a lot of wins on shifting perspective, and, even writing things down and getting some wins to come out. What would be some advice or takeaways for listeners on just improving their mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would tell people that you need to first identify, I don't want to say where you're falling short, but where their self-limiting beliefs are. We go through life, being conditioned in a sense, and you got to recognize what's true and what's not. And once you do that, then you can you really can work from there. Establish some non-negotiables, establish some kind of routine where you spend some time doing some mindset work. It doesn't have to be, I feel like there's this like misconception or idea out there when people talk about like meditating, for example, that you're a monk somewhere in a mountain spending hours with your legs crossed and your eyes closed. It's like, no, it can be 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes in the morning, sit down, close your eyes, just visualize the day. But just whatever that routine is, stick to it. I mean, there's a million great things you can do out there. There's books you can read, podcasts you can listen to like this one. For me, again, the things that have really helped: visualization, meditating, journaling, and just trying to be consistent with that, positive statements. Yeah.
Well, I love it. And I would say you become a student of mindset, because you bring stuff to me. We get on calls and you've listened to something new, you're sharing it. And I do feel like you've opened your mind to possibility. And yeah, I mean, listeners, go on YouTube and type in subconscious mindset, and you can find some pretty amazing stuff out there, right, Jesse?
Oh yeah, it really is. I think most people, especially when you talk about the idea of like manifesting things, most people are skeptical until you start practicing it and you have, things come to your life. I mean, again, the case this year, we talked about our first $1 million month. I joked around with you guys on this is, the first month we hit $1 million in sales was the month I wrote it on a piece of paper and I put it in my wallet. This July we had our first $1 million month. I was tired of falling short of that, and I wrote it down. I said before the year's over, this is going to happen. I wrote it down, signed a name on it, and then lo and behold, that month hit $1 million.
Well, and when you and I talked about it, and that's one of my favorite, because you sent me a funny text message, but you have the best processes. You've got a great sales manager.
Yeah.
You have all the pieces, and it wasn't happening. And you literally in your mind said, well, I'm going to create it. I'm going to write it down. And we did listeners, there's an episode on the toolbox where we talk about there's a science to writing down, and Jesse wrote it on a card and he signed it. And my favorite is you shared the win with me, and then the follow-up text was, apparently I just need to write it down and sign it. And it was like, yes. Sometimes that's as simple as it is shifting it in your mind and then getting it on a piece of paper and writing it down, and then letting all the hard work you've already done come to fruition. And I'm so happy for you guys, because I think, as we've talked about, that's the first of many. And now $1 million sales month is the new paradigm, and we're only going up from there.
Yeah. It was probably a self-limiting belief to not write it down, to think if I write it down, it has to be real. I'm going to hold accountable, because you are so competitive. You're like, if I write this down and sign it, I have to make it happen. Probably at some level, subconsciously, it was a self-limiting belief. But it is so interesting. Like, one thing I love about you, Jesse, is if someone needs advice on something, or they're like thinking of switching their CRM, or they're thinking about going with this vendor, or whatever it is. It because you've tried it, you've done things. Like, you are so well versed in the industry and the processes in the industry. You've been part of how many different organizations, Breakthrough Academy, CCN, all of
Maui
those,
Mastermind,
Mastermind. Like, you have done all of the skill set part, but now your mindset part really is amazing to see you just combine that all to reach, $1 million months.
Yeah. I think that this has never been so evident for me, but the, process is important. And those groups have been helpful to me, but without the mindset, the process to a certain extent is worthless. It's really easy to use sales as an example. There's so many different sales systems out there, and whatever you pick, you can teach it. Whatever system you use, you take 10 reps, you can teach them all the same system. You can teach them the same scripts, and they can memorize everything. But they're all going to have different results. And really, I think it's because it boils down to most people can believe in the product. Again, using sales as an example, most people can believe in the company they're selling for, but most people don't believe in themselves. Mm-hmm. And you can see when you have a couple different reps going to the home. That's why I know it frustrates a lot of people out there that have great product knowledge, and they know the product inside out, they know the process inside out, but they go in the house and they're nervous and they're timid and they don't believe themselves and they don't sell. And then you take the person that doesn't know anything about the windows, doesn't know anything about the siding, but knows people, knows how to talk, it makes people feel good about themselves, and that's always the person that closes the deal. So the process is important. Processes are system of processes. I think when it comes to any business are incredibly important, especially as you build and scale. But without the mindset, without the mindset, I think I don't want to say you're limited, but in a way you are. And I think also, I just wanted to say this because something that you touched on, Kaitlin, made me think of this, is that when you think about, setting goals and manifesting and all that, is people, I think, again, there's this idea out there that it's this woo-woo out there stuff, but it's not so much that you're writing it down and it's just going to magically happen. But when you start thinking about you set these goals and you start thinking about it every day, well, then you start taking action. Mm-hmm. And then little by little, okay, what do we, where were we falling short on $1 million? Was it the leads? Was it closing? Was it follow-up? What was it? And so it's the idea that you get the goal, you write it down, you think about it, and it leads you to take these actions that eventually help you accomplish what you're setting out for. So.
Well, yeah, and Jesse, you just summed it up. A lot of people, the law of attraction, people are like, oh, that's woo new age. But attraction ends in action. And it's the energy and the mindset that you go to action in that creates what you attract. When you wrote it down on the card, because Kaitlin brought that up, you believed not only was it possible, it was going to happen. It was just a matter of time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's I knew at that point it was going to happen.
Yes. And that's the thing. It took a certain level of belief to write it down. And so as you're listening to this, Jesse had done a lot of work. How many daily affirmations had you done around your goal and around getting that? I mean, was it a year or two?
Yeah, it was, it was definitely a decent bit. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, if anything, the disbelief was, when is it going to happen? I know it's going to happen, but are you a patient person, Jesse?
I don't think that you would classify me as very patient, but no, but it's, and the ironic thing is that probably the impatience and trying to worry, in some regard, trying to figure it out, probably kept me from that in some ways. Cause you want to talk about, I probably, try to change too much or tweak this instead of just sticking to the goal and committing to it. Getting impatient probably held me back on some level from getting there as fast.
We'll go a little deeper here, maybe not too deep, but you and I have talked about it, because I would say you are patient. We can talk more about that because you've worked on it, because with competitiveness comes impatience. And a lot of people say, well, that's what makes me great. But if you think about, and the science of success is when you're saying you want something and it doesn't come, you create resistance to it, like being attached to it with impatience. It'd be like ordering something from Amazon and it gives you a delivery date and you check in it, and because it's not coming faster, you cancel in the order. A lot of times with impatience, people cancel the order without, or it's like a farmer taking a seed and planting in the backyard. And then every single day they dig up the seed to see if it's grown. It will never grow.
Or like if you're drowning and you need a life preserver and someone throws it to you,
you're so busy flailing for it, you don't actually catch.
It gets farther away from you.
Yeah.
It does. It gets farther away from you. You create the ripples and that vibration that shins it away from you.
Yes. And Jesse, you and I, at first, we talked about a lot because I would make fun. You're half my age, kid. And I called you a kid, right? But I was like, be patient. It's coming. You're like, I want it now. I want it now. And sometimes it was in the wanting it now that you created the resistance that kept it from coming, right?
Yeah. But, and it's funny how things work out and how the universe works. But, if we had done the volume that I wanted, a couple years ago or a year or two ago, we wouldn't have delivered on it the way I wanted to. So it really was, looking back on it, it was, we did exactly what we needed to. We did exactly what we were supposed to do, because again, if we'd been at the volume we were at now a couple years ago, we wouldn't have, everything I just said about taking care of customers, I don't know if we would have been able to. We had to work on those systems and those processes. So it's funny how you end up, when you look back on it, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And so we had issues in production we had to work through. We had issues on operations we had to work through, and we did. And now we're having, all of a sudden now we're selling more than we ever have. So it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great concept because, often when it comes to, God's timing is always perfect, sometimes early, never late, but that really does fall into God has to build you into the person that is ready to receive what you're asking for. And that's in all areas.
Yeah.
And you just described that perfectly. Like in your business, it had to be production, it had to be operations, it had to be customer service. That had to be at the version that it is now to be able to receive it all, which is really amazing, right?
Well, I don't know if you remember, Jesse, I used to tell you all the time, Jesse, if you had everything you wanted right now, you'd be freaking miserable because you actually enjoy the challenge of it. And you fought me. And this is enjoy the ride. I mean, I talk about it all the time, but enjoying the ride is as you're climbing the mountain, not wanting to be at the top or not looking at the gap at how far, but literally enjoying the moment. And I do feel like, and I hope you're celebrating yourself because you have done a lot of work on patience, on not, it doesn't have to come right now. It's coming. I know it's coming. Every day I'm working towards that and just enjoying the challenges that comes up, the delays, the frustrations. I mean, that is part of the journey, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I definitely am enjoying the ride more now than I used to be. It's and thank you. I have worked, I guess I still don't view myself as that patient, but I guess if I look back on it, I am miles more than
in comparison. Yes. Yeah. You always be impatient some level, which is what continues to drive you.
Yes.
It's like, don't get rid of that ever, right? It keeps you going, but you've taken off the resistance, the impatience to a point of resistance, which is the key there.
And just, again, trusting and knowing that whatever my goals are, that they're going to happen, they're going to come true.
Yeah.
And just knowing it at some level that whatever I set my mind to, that I'll be able to accomplish.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I might have shared it with the group that you're part of, but there's a video and it just made me think of it when you said that, Kaitlin, because, I do say God's timing is perfect. And this guy recorded this really heartfelt video about the fact that like 95% of the bodies that are unalived on Mount Everest
Oh yeah.
reached the pinnacle. They reached the pinnacle.
They had the goal to climb Mount Everest.
And they made it to climb, and it was on the way back that they passed away. And the message in that is when we're not getting what we want, maybe it's God saying you're not ready for it yet. And you have to have what's in you. And I do think you've worked a lot on what's in you, what's in the business to handle the growth that's coming, to not just make it to the goal. Yeah, you could have sold $1 million a long time ago, but then the company might have fallen apart because you didn't have what it took to make it back. And I think that's important. I mean, I'm even in my mindset work, taking that to the next level. When I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh, some of the things that I'm working, so they are taking longer than I want, but I can enjoy the ride knowing that they're preparing me for what's coming.
Yeah,
I don't just want to make it there. It's like a gold medalist. They didn't have a goal to make it to the Olympics. They had a goal to medal there, right? It's going one step further, which is going to give you the strength, the endurance, the life lessons to actually help you get there.
Yeah, it's that video really was incredible perspective. But to your point too, I think a lot of people, when it comes to setting goals, even if you don't accomplish, if you talk about the Olympics, using that, like, let's say you first of all, Olympic athletes are the top of the top in whatever sport they are, but so many people, maybe you don't make whatever your, the goal is to medal, but still make the Olympics. And then you get stuck in the gap that you didn't accomplish that, and can't see everything else that you accomplished.
Yeah.
And don't enjoy the experience of actually being in the Olympics and the people you meet and the experiences you have along the way. All right. That's the thing, is the person you become along the way is the important part of it, not the actual physical thing that you get from it. It's who you become. And I see you leaning into that more.
Enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, rather than the result.
Yeah. Because the results will come and go. Even when you get the $1 million, it's gone
I'll
before you know it.
I definitely, if I look back a couple of years ago versus now, one of the things that's changed a lot is I enjoy the process, much more than, getting to the $1 million in sales. It wasn't even the million, it wasn't even the $1 million for me. It's what I learned to enjoy was the things that we do each day. And then, once I did that, then it came easy.
Yeah.
And instead of worrying about the final result, it's just enjoying the process, enjoying that journey.
It's funny to me because I've never realized it until you just were saying it that way. You've always applied that to the gym. You like the process. I mean, there are people that hate the gym. There are people that hate lifting weights, and you love the process because you know what the end result is. And I think you finally shifted that in the business. The heart is just lifting weights. And if I enjoy it, I'm going to get the reward. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually it will come. Well,
again, it's that belief. It's the 100% belief that, maybe it's not going to be today, but you just know at some point it's going to happen, whatever you're setting your mind out to. And if you use the gym as an analogy, if you go to the gym enough times, you follow the right, workout and your nutrition's in check, you know what your end results will be.
Yeah.
It might not be tomorrow, but it'll come.
And in business, and I would say, and I know you sometimes question yourself, but you're an expert in the home improvement business, generating leads, converting them to appointments, training sales reps on how to do the process, training production, how to have a satisfied customer, and getting paid. And that's the simple part of it. And along the way, there are going to be challenges in every part of that. And it's just learning how to manage those as you go that allow you to grow the company, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's funny. Do you remember how many times we talked about the parade of your life? That analogy?
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
No, because we, and for listeners, me and Jesse, we talk and he'd be like, Shawn, it's raining today. And I'm like, I know it is. Sometimes it rains on your parade, but if we fast forward to the end of your parade, what does that look like? And got Jesse to think about the success, to think about, his beautiful relationships, to think about all these future things. And right now you're just in one part where it's raining. Let it rain, dance in the rain. And then a couple hours later, you're in the sunshine again.
You can't connect the dots forward, only backwards.
Yes. And don't they connect beautifully when you look back now, even at your young ripe age?
Yes, they do.
And I'll tell you, at 52, brother, they continue to connect like that, even through the things that you don't expect. It's beautiful to look back always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Any last takeaways? Anything you want to share with listeners that are working on their mindset, working on a business, working with family?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would just to anyone that's first off in the middle of it, just keep going. I know there's running a business, a family business. I mean, there's always ups and downs, but just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then when it comes to mindset, I mean, I think if you're not doing mindset work, and again, there's a million different things you can do. It doesn't have to be everything, and there's no perfect mindset work in my opinion. But if you're not doing it, or you're starting to pick a routine, stick to it. It's amazing what you can accomplish, and not just what you can accomplish, but it's amazing how much happier you'll be when you go through your day with a positive outlook and a positive mindset, rather than worrying about everything. I mean, I can tell you in business, again, if I go back to that line that I started with my grandmother about 99% of the things you worry about never come true.
Yeah.
I mean, I can list off all the things that I've worried about over the last 9-10 years, and none of them have come true. I mean, absolutely none. And I've dealt with, I think I've dealt with most of the major issues you'll run into dealing with a home improvement business.
Yes.
And none of the worries ever come true.
No, and it's made you stronger and better every step of the way too. I mean,
Yeah,
the most important thing you said there was you feel better along the way, right? And that's literally what this is about. I mean, in our program, we talk about thought creates feeling, feeling creates action, and action creates result. And so many people are so worried about the action and the results that they're not paying attention. And if you're feeling stressed out right now, if you're feeling frustrated, what we're talking about is do something to change it. And Jesse just talked about what we prescribe for Inner Blueprint students.
Yeah.
30 minutes a day. I mean, it's crazy, right, Jesse, that people aren't willing to take 30 minutes for themselves to improve their life at a level that you can't even understand right now.
Well, I think it's sad. I think deep down, some people might just like being unhappy.
Being miserable.
No, it's true.
They're comfortable in their comfort zone, which even if it's uncomfortable there, that's where they're comfortable. Well, thank you for hopping on this episode and sharing a little bit about your family business, a lot about your mindset and what it takes to not only be successful once, but to continue to be successful and more successful every single day.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys. I'm honored to be on the show, and thank you guys both for everything, because you guys have been a big part of my journey. So.
Oh, well, what I love, dude, is it's just getting started.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. I can't even wait.
The best, these wins you've had so far are just a taste of what's coming, and I believe that and know that, and I know you do too.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, listeners, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening. If you know anybody that could benefit from the topics we talked about today, please hit the subscribe button, share it with somebody that could use some better mindset. And as always, as we just talked about, if it's raining today, it'll be sunny tomorrow. Enjoy the ride. It's a good one. Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Feurer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life, and always remind you to enjoy the ride.